Welcome to the Leadership Expose podcast. This podcast is for purpose-driven leaders at diverse levels and organizations around the world who are seeking to scale and transform their leadership, to level up their business, and to create an impact on the lives of people all around them. Business and boardroom topics, trends, innovation, transformation, and the intersection with leadership is the focus. We enable success. I'm your host, Stephen Paul. In this episode, I'm delighted to have David Agar, CEO and founder of Digital Ability Limited, that offers the world's most accessible and inclusive open banking technology to help society's most vulnerable people to manage their day-to-day finances. David is a highly experienced leader and a CEO, specializing in creating value and scaling within disruptive technology sector businesses. We'll hear about David and how he's making change through this disruptive yet innovative technology. David, welcome. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Yes, welcome to you as well. And I'm doing really well, thank you.
David, we're both located in the UK, but for the purposes of our audience, tell us where you're located.
Yeah, so I'm based in the city of York, which is in the north of England, but it's only about a 2-hour train ride into central London, so it's pretty handy.
Wonderful, David. This is a an interesting episode for me because we know each other and we have interacted previously, but I'm keen to hear about your personal and professional journey, some of that intersection. Where did it all begin? And then we'll move on to some of the things that you're focused on. So go on, tell us a little bit more about your journey.
Okay, well, I would call myself a tech sector entrepreneur, and I've been doing this for about 35 years now. Can you believe that? I started off in mobile communications, and then moved into IoT, or the Internet of Things. And then for the last 7 years, I've been in the very exciting space of fintech, financial technology.
So where did it all begin?
Well, it began in mobile comms, first of all, I've had 4 businesses prior to my current one, 2 of my own and 2 for other investors, and I was leading this young startup in mobile comms. And that grew and grew and did really well. And then after about 5 years, I decided that I wanted to try it myself. So I left and set up my own business, again in mobile comms, slightly different, but yeah, that then led me all over the world. So we had offices in the UK, in York and London, and also in Germany, in Düsseldorf, and also in New York City.
International
innovation.
These are some of the takeaways that I'm just bringing to the forefront from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, well, each of those episodes is, you earn the right to wear the T-shirt, hopefully, and you gain a few battle scars, and it's not always easy at the time, but for the next venture that you go into, then you're thinking, oh yeah, that's why I learned how to do that.
Yeah, amazing, David. So now your focus is on the company. You're building what you're calling the world's most accessible and inclusive open banking technology. Tell us a little bit more about that and all the wrappers around it.
Yeah, sure. So this all came about because I was working for another investor, and we just launched in the fintech space a new mobile app, and I realized after launching it that in actual fact we'd kind of automatically excluded up to 20% of our target audience, simply because we hadn't considered in the development stage the rationale behind digital accessibility. And by digital accessibility, what I mean is that for people who may struggle to use digital solutions, so they could be people with disabilities. So, for example, a person who is dyslexic or autistic may struggle with reading a particular font or point size to the point where they literally cannot use, a certain app. And it was a kind of a double whammy for me as well, because my son is dyslexic autistic. So I was thinking, gosh, how on earth did I kind of miss that one? But when you're in the middle of it and you're trying to get to market as quickly as possible, sometimes the most obvious things are overlooked. So the more I looked into this, the more I realized that from a banking perspective, there were literally millions of people in the UK and many, many more millions throughout the world who are either, unable to use existing banking apps or really struggle. And whilst traditionally people who don't use banking apps often fell upon branch banking as their go-to solution, the position over the last 10 years plus really has been that there's been a program pretty much globally of closing branch banking down because the banks are looking to reduce costs and increase their bottom line. But what this has caused is a real squeeze point, as I said, for many millions of people. And this can lead to reduced independence, increased frustration, mental health issues, and ultimately financial exclusion. So, and the crux of the issue is that it is on the shoulders, the responsibility on the shoulders of the individual to come up with understand what their needs are first of all, and then come up with their own solution, and then put that solution together into their devices. So I thought, well, why don't we just turn this on its head? Why don't we get the technology to do the heavy lifting? And thankfully, with the wonderful opportunities that emanate from open banking, then we came up with something where we could actually do exactly that. So if you are a non-tech savvy person with digital accessibility challenges, then you will be able to manage your finances using our solution. It's not yet launched. I hasten to add before people try and go rush and find it, but we're building that at the moment, and we want to change for the better people's lives who otherwise would be penalised. So this is very much a social impact project, and it comes under the banner that I call FinTech for Good.
Yeah, I was just going to say you're maximizing social impact through that positive, inclusive disruption. So I'm keen to just explore a little bit more as to what you were describing here. The fintech space is quite large. Where does your solution fit into that ecosystem? So just in practice or in practical terms, just share with us for anyone who's listening as to where the solution really makes a big impact or where it actually fits into that ecosystem. Is it, from so we've got banks, we've got their banking applications. Do you plug into that, or is it standalone? Tell us a little bit more.
Well, anybody who's had experience of dealing with banks will understand that things never go particularly quickly with banks. They're generally speaking risk averse, and they take their time. So initially, this is going to be a direct-to-consumer solution, so that we can try and get as many people on board as possible, and learn those valuable lessons we can continue to include in our development, so that we want to improve the product all the time. But very much so, we see this as being a B2B2C opportunity as well. So therefore, we will on our roadmap, then we will be developing both white label solutions and SDK solution so that these can be integrated into existing banking apps. Because, certainly in the UK, the likelihood of somebody looking to change banks is pretty low, even though the government tried to make that a lot easier a few years back. So there's this latency to sort of stay where you are. And we're, just to make it very clear, we're not a bank, but we will facilitate people and enabling them to access their existing banking accounts, so that if you have accounts with, say, multiple banks, and theoretically you'd have to have multiple apps to manage these accounts, then with us, you won't get different experiences per account. You'll get the same experience because you're on the same platform.
Yeah.
So beyond banking, then what we'll actually be developing is accessibility as a service. And so our sort of big vision is that we want to be able to apply this to any market and any sector.
Amazing. David, you're a business leader and entrepreneur in your own right, and you've had businesses previously. You've exited. You're running a business at the moment. Share with us your experiences or a story that comes to your mind as to the running of a business and the challenges that you're facing. Internally, but also from an external perspective. Break it down for us.
Right. Okay. So a few years ago, with one of my businesses, we'd just taken on some funding, VC funding, and in fact, this was in 2007. And then things were going well, where business was growing, within expectations. And our model at the time was that we were our strategy was that we were B2B2C. So it was going to be used by consumers, but we were going to get mass adoption by partnering with organizations that had large customer bases. But when the financial crash happened, 2008, and obviously the impacts of that lasted for several years, many of the businesses that we were targeting were far too concerned about trying to, manage their own businesses. They weren't thinking about third-party partnerships. So we had to come to quite a big strategic pivot and decide, right, okay, well, look, the only way for us to reach our target end user is to go direct. And so we then had to kind of unpick a little bit of what we were doing and make it focused on direct to consumer. So that was a really difficult time because whilst it was taking time to start from scratch, as it were, to build up these customer channels. As a young business, we're burning cash, and so in the midst of all the other challenges that you face within a global crash, then it was very, very testing times. But I'm pleased to say that we managed to get through it, and ultimately the business became very profitable. Because we had customers in over 100 countries, and yes, the business was eventually sold to a tier 1 mobile operator.
Amazing. That must have felt really high achieving of a sensation when that occurred.
Well, yeah, especially when through those difficult times, you have to make difficult decisions. And at one point, I had to forego salary for a year, which was, not nice. It's never nice, but it was necessary to get through to the other side.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased as well to say that because it was a very difficult situation for the business, I was able to get our team to sort of step up to the plate, and each one of them agreed to take a 25% cut in salary. for a period of time. And I said, look, I'm bowled over and blown away by that. Thank you so much for that commitment, and I commit to you that when we do get through the other side, I will repay everything that you have deferred.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Yeah. Well, you're a progressive-minded leader, is what I'm hearing, and how you're actually navigating through some of these challenges. And speaking of which, we are, in this economic situation where we have some economic shocks and downturns, and some industries are thriving, some industries are not. We've also come out of pandemic. We're still in it, or a version
Yeah.
of it. What are you seeing? What's your experience of the business world as a result of all of this? And how does that impact the work that you're trying to push from your business?
Well, I'm definitely seeing, both on a personal level, in terms of my own contacts and friends, as well as sort of nationally, that it's really the people who are suffering the pain are obviously those um, um, who are sort of, let's say, the more kind of lower salaried people, and that businesses are trying to survive with these unbelievable with this unbelievable disruption of cost base, by putting prices up. So it kind of like being trained as an economist, I understand that the impact of one thing in one area then has an impact on another area, and so on and so forth. And then ultimately, if it's not kept in control, then you get this crazy upward spiral of inflation. But I think on the positive side, and this is really on the back of the pandemic experience, there is a much greater momentum towards diversity and inclusion, and trying to look out for and be more caring, I guess, for those who are less fortunate in society. And in a sense, that sort of nicely leads back to what we're trying to do with bankability, to make it easier for people to to maintain their finances, and also we would like to help those who perhaps do not currently have a financial footprint, and with open banking, then there are ways and means for us to be able to put things together to facilitate their entry into that, because ultimately it's easier to exist in society if you do have a financial footprint.
Yeah, there is a greater good here, isn't there, David? With
Yeah, definitely. I mean, bankability, we intend to run as a B Corp. And we are pledging 10% of all future profits to be distributed amongst our charity partners, for forever. So yes, it is profit with purpose, I would say, is a way to describe it.
Yeah. And when you look at 2023, I look at 12 months as near term. So David, your vision for that near term, let's say 12 months, what does that look like at the end of that 12 months for
bankability?
Yeah.
We will be launched. That will be the biggest milestone for us in 2023, and we will be having our first signups, doing live transactions, bringing their accounts, accessing it via the platform, and working with wonderful organisations in partnership, to help us bring this accessibility and inclusion to as many people as possible.
Yeah, excellent, David. I'm keen to hear about you as a leader, and you've navigated through several sectors, companies of different sizes. You're leading teams. What's one thing that's your secret formula to your success?
I think probably a couple of things actually. One is that I can get through to anybody that I want to get through to, and that's quite a quite a skill really. But it's sort of natural, and if you can't knock on the front door and somebody comes to the door and says, "Yeah, hi, come in," then it's about working out a strategy of how to get to that person in some other way. But I think the other thing about me is, and it's just a natural thing, part of my DNA, is that I'm able to look at something and really pretty quickly decide, okay, right, is this scalable? Is it disruptive? And will it be fun? And if we can do all of those three things, then really the money side of things will kind of like naturally follow.
Yeah.
If you go chasing the money as your primary objective, then I think you're probably setting yourself up for a bit of a fall. But for those other things, get all those right, and as I said, don't forget the fun bit, because running your own business, creating something from a blank sheet of paper is never easy. Doesn't matter what anybody says, it's never easy.
Yeah, it's a mindset shift, or a topic of mindset as well. So I completely completely in alignment with you. David, what does a day in the life of David look like? Morning to evening, or Monday to Friday, or Monday to Sunday?
Well, it kind of looks before lockdown. I was based in London, and I was doing the usual sort of daily grind approach to working in an office, leaving home early, get to the office early, do 8-10 hours, whatever, and then go home, grab something to eat, go to sleep, repeat. And then at the weekends, I would come back up to my family home in North Yorkshire. But obviously, lockdown changed that, and so now what happens is that actually we don't really need to be doing all of that all of the time. So I'm fortunate enough to have a little bit of land. So we have some animals, we have some chickens, and we have some ducks and some geese. So part of my daily routine is looking after those guys early on in the morning, getting them fed and watered, and then putting them away at night. And then in between times, trying to start a fintech for good open banking platform.
Amazing. I love the way you you balance. That's very important these days.
It is. It is. Yeah.
Yeah. David, we're coming to a close very shortly. Share with us any closing messages or a challenge to other leaders or anybody in your ecosystem, or boards, business organizations, industries, that you'd like to share here.
Yeah. So the topic of diversity and inclusion and equality, it's on a lot of people's agendas at the moment, and that's a good thing. However, what I would strongly suggest and really set this down as a challenge is that this is not just because it might be kind of fashionable in inverted commas, or flavor of the month. This is not simply a tick box exercise. In order for this to really work for the benefit of the business, any business, then if you have a more motivated set of employees, team members, then it has to start at the top. It needs to be part of the culture of the business, and it doesn't just happen overnight. You can't just send out an email with the link to a video and say, there you go, guys, we're all D and I now. It really has to be demonstrated and repeated and put into processes. And it's not just one person's responsibility, it's everybody's responsibility. But so a lot of businesses are looking at that from the HR perspective, really it's inclusion is all about everybody. So that also means the customers, is your website accessible? You might not be a digital business, you might be some other kind of business, but are you accessible to the 20% of your potential audience who find accessibility a challenge for whatever reason? Because, if only for commercial reasons, your business will improve if you make it more accessible.
Yeah.
So that's my challenge to business leaders out there.
There you go. Challenge from David on accessibility and diversity, all topics close to my heart. David, thank you very much for sharing your insights and making the time. You're doing great.
We hope so. Let's speak in a year's time and see how far we get.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, David.
Okay. My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Okay, folks, thanks for listening in. Tune in to our next episode on a leader who is specializing in business value engineering. Stay tuned. Until next time. Hey, I hope you enjoy the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You're now seeing this part of the video also because you consume some of my content, insights, and teachings. Maybe you've been to my LinkedIn page or website or seen other social media ads, or listen to my podcast. I'm Stephen Paul, a business and transformational executive coach, strategic advisor, leader, and board member. I've been in diverse roles, corporate executive, entrepreneur, and worked with businesses and firms of all sizes, built and launched businesses, created high-impact boards, and so forth in 4 continents. I get it. I've been there, done that. But what is different is I bring a unique perspective and a playbook. I've helped 100+ business leaders just like you to scale and align their leadership top teams, the board, and overall business for growth. Leaders like Ivana from medium-sized company in the EU who grew 150% and expanded globally in under 5 months. After she started to work with me over facilitated sessions in an initial 3 days, I helped fine-tune their strategy and align their leadership team and board to be a cohesive driving force to achieve their dreams and outcomes. I want to teach you the same thing and more on how to scale and align your leadership team and board so you can increase your business growth and value. Get clarity on what is the next right strategy for you. There are multiple ways we can work with you. Number 1, click the link for a free, non-obligatory 60-minute initial strategic session. Let's get a feel for your dreams, your vision, your challenges, and let me convert that into a route map for you where we can co-develop and co-pilot. Number 2, enroll in an innovative and intuitive digital online course that I have created to help you transform. It's called Unshakable Resilience. It is the ultimate program for individuals and business leaders like you who want to be equipped at a personal and professional level to respond to any form of challenges or in crisis situations and take on opportunities with grit, resilience, and build a mindset of success. In essence, you want to be unshakable, thrive in crisis, take on opportunities in the face of adversity, and build a success mindset. So, click the link below to learn more on how I can personally help you individually and your firm to scale and align your leadership team and business and pivot in a transformational way. And for you to experience this, whatever the challenge you're facing, get in touch with me. Let's discuss, and I will share my insight rapidly to enable your transformation. Click the links below.